Hi everyone, it's Emma from Air Learners. Today we're going to go through the Year 7 and Year 9 writing preparation PowerPoint for Naplan. We'll go through some tips and tricks and just about the assessment. So the writing assessment goes for 40 minutes for both Year 7 and Year 9. The prompt, which is what you're going to write about, will either be persuasive writing or narrative writing. Both persuasive and narrative writing is marked by a marking criteria. At a minimum, students are expected to write a story with a few ideas which are related, provide descriptions about any characters or settings. Furthermore, students are expected to spell words correctly and use the correct punctuation, including capitalization. So for persuasive writing, we'll go through some persuasive writing tips. The aim of persuasive writing is to convince the reader of their opinion on a topic. A possible structure of your persuasive writing essay may be introduction, which includes introducing the main idea of your arguments and then providing a sentence or two about the three arguments you're going to make. Followed by body paragraphs. Generally, you'll have 3, maybe 4 body paragraphs, the fourth being a rebuttal paragraph. You're going to use the TEEL structure to form each paragraph. We'll go through more about TEEL in the next slide. And you'll also think about, as I said, a fourth paragraph that might include counter arguments. Finally, you're going to conclude with a conclusion. Restate your main ideas, sum up the arguments, and limit the amount of new information you include in your conclusion. So here is the TEEL structure. You might know it as the hamburger structure or the sandwich structure. I was taught the TEEL structure, so we'll go through it like this. But obviously, if you went with another structure, it's the same concept, just different titles. So topic, you're going to state what you'll be discussing in this paragraph and your main idea. One sentence starter might be, one argument is that. Next, you're going to include your evidence. Provide your evidence for your statement. This is to persuade the reader that this is in order to persuade the reader, you need to be able to provide some context to back up your claim. Sentence starters might be, the evidence shows, or this is demonstrated by. Next is explain. Go into more detail about what you're arguing and elaborate on your evidence. Sentence starter ideas might be, the evidence supports this by showing. And finally, you need a linking sentence. A linking sentence is needed to link your arguments back to the main point. You might start your linking sentence with therefore, this shows that, etc. So then all of your arguments make sense and are connected to your main idea that you are arguing. I hope that makes sense. So here are some techniques. We've got repetition. Repetition involves using a word or a phrase for effect 2 or more times. Examples include time after time, hand in hand, and home sweet home. Next, we have a call to action. A call to action involves an invitation for a user to act. For example, come join our team today. Rhetorical questions. A rhetorical question is a question that is asked to make a dramatic effect rather than to get an answer. Next, we have an appeal to emotion. This involves getting people to feel happy or sad in order to agree with your arguments. For example, if you donate today, you can help prevent this puppy from being abandoned. Sorry, his is supposed to be this puppy. Next, we have the marking criteria for persuasive writing, and this comes straight from the Naplan website. So we've got it labeled 1 to 10. We've got the audience, text structure, ideas, persuasive devices, vocabulary, cohesion, paragraphing, sentence structure, punctuation, and spelling. So as you can see down here, audience, you're going to be marked from 0 to 6, and this is the writer's capacity to orient, engage, and persuade the reader. Next is text structure, which is 0 to 4 points. And this is the organization of structural components of a persuasive text. So introduction, body, conclusion, as we went through before, the TEEL structure, and then also the intro body paragraphs with the rebuttal paragraph and a conclusion. Rebuttal paragraph isn't necessary, although if you really want to do well, which I encourage you to do well, you should include a rebuttal paragraph. Also, when you're in higher education and higher year levels of high school, you might want to include a rebuttal paragraph, so then you can be on top of the other students in your learning. Next, we have ideas. The section and relevance and elaboration of ideas in a persuasive argument, and that is from 0 to 5. Next, we have persuasive devices, the use of a range of persuasive devices to enhance the writer's position and persuade the reader. So we went through persuasive devices here, also known as persuasive techniques. I recommend you write all of these down. You can copy these ones on the screen now, and then also do your own Google search of other persuasive devices. Create examples and then write them down on a list or a poster and stick them up on your wall so then you can look at them and remember them to include in your writing. Next, we have vocabulary, which is the range and precision of contextuality of appropriate language choices, and this is 0 to 5. Next, we have cohesion, the control of multiple threads and relationships across the text, achieved through the use of referring words, ellipses, text connectives, substitutions, and word associations, and that's 0 to 4. Next, we have paragraphing, the segmenting of text into paragraphs that assist the reader to follow the line of argument. Now, it's really important that we do use paragraphs, but if you forget to use a paragraph, that's okay. You can use an asterisk or write the letter P to denote a paragraph in the correct section, of course. If you just go through your text and you're not sure where to put your paragraphs and you just write P randomly, then you're not going to be awarded any points. So it's really important that we leave one line for paragraphs, if you remember. And this is to separate different ideas. So if you've finished your first argument, you're going to go into your next argument and leave a line. Next is sentence structure, the production of grammatically correct, structurally sound and meaningful sentences, and that's 0 to 6. Next, punctuation, the use of correct and appropriate punctuation to aid the reading of the text, which is 0 to 5. And finally, number 10 is spelling. And this is the accuracy of spelling and the difficulty of the words used. So if you that's 0 to 6 points. If you currently think that your vocabulary is lacking, I recommend you reading more books and also going through the dictionary, or when you're reading books and you see a word that you don't understand, write it down, write the definition, and try and use that word in your vocabulary in a day-to-day life. Or pick a word each day and try and use that word. I know on, I think, the dictionary website, they do have like a word of the day. You can always check that word and see if you can use it that day. Next, we have narrative writing. So first tip is to brainstorm your ideas. Before you begin writing, think about your setting, your characters, and the plot. During this time, also think about a title. That's really important and you will be marked on that. Next, follow the formula of exposition, which is background information about the main character and setting the scene in the first part of your narrative writing. Next is the conflict, a problem that happens to your main character or characters. Next is the rising action, more problems and conflicts arise. Next, we have the climax. This is the most exciting part of the plot, and it also includes the turning point. Next is the falling action. These are the events after the climax. And finally, we have the resolution. This is the ending, tying up any loose ends where you might have addressed something during your narrative writing, but you want to conclude it in your ending. So tip number 3 is to write your story in full sentences using paragraphs. As seen in the narrative writing marking criteria, you will be marked on the deliberate use of structured paragraphs to pace out your writing and to highlight the various settings and ideas of your writing. And try and avoid writing in large chunks, because we don't want to see just writing on the full page. You want to break it up into paragraphs. Use a combination of simple, compound, and complex structures in your writing, complex sentences in your writing, and we'll go through this later in the PowerPoint. Number 4 is to use proper punctuation and spelling. Use a range of concise words which matches the genre of your writing. So if you're writing a horror piece, you're not going to be using languages like cuddly, cutesy languages that you might see in a more romantic style of writing, if that makes sense. So it's really important that you have an appropriate language genre. Next is review your work and correct any spelling mistakes, because as we saw before, spelling, your marks on spelling pretty largely, like that contributes to a large part of your mark. So rereading your work multiple times and editing and doing a final check is really important to make sure that your work is up to a golden standard. Here are some sentence structures. Top scoring students will use a combination of simple sentences, compound sentences, and complex sentences. A simple sentence contains a single clause. A compound sentence contains 2 or more clauses that are linked by a comma, semicolon, or conjunction. A complex sentence contains independent clauses along with at least one dependent clause. Now, punctuation. We've got apostrophes. An apostrophe, as seen here, can be used to connect 2 words in order to make one shorter word. Examples include do not is equal to don't, she is she's, they had they'd, and they have they've. Next is commas, as we can see here. They have many uses, including to separate a series of words, to connect 2 independent clauses, to separate phrases, and to avoid confusion. Next we have colons. A colon, as seen here, are used to signal a list, an example, an explanation, or a subtitle. Next is the point of ellipsis, which are these 3 dots here, and this is to indicate that something has been removed from a quote, or they may be used for added suspension. Generally, you'll be using it for added suspension during Naplan, but if you're doing a piece, a persuasive analysis, then you might use it then when using part of a quote. And then we have quotation marks, which are these 2, and these are used to identify words spoken by a character. So here we've got our marking criteria from the Naplan website. We've got audience, which is 0 to 6, text structure, 0 to 4 points, 3 ideas, 0 to 5, characters and settings, 0 to 4, and characters and settings we didn't go through earlier, so we'll go through it now. Character, the portrayal and development of character, and setting, the development of a sense of place, time, and atmosphere. Next is vocabulary, 0 to 5, 6, cohesion, 0 to 4, the control of multiple threads and relationships over the whole text, achieved through the use of referring words, substitutions, word associations, and text connectives. 7, paragraphs, 0 to 2, 8, sentence structures, 0 to 6, punctuation, 0 to 5, and spelling, 0 to 6. So thank you everyone for listening. Keep practicing and give the practice test a go. Reach out to an early learners tutor if you have any problems. Good luck. Thank you.